You say hi? Say, I'm Lila, and this is Rissa. Say, welcome to our YouTube channel. So this video is, I know it's different than all the other content that we post. We focus on travel and food. Those are like our two main things, but we also want to, talk about special experiences that we have as a family. And birth, Willa's birth experience was so special, and we learned so much, and we had the best experience that we have to share. So I wanted to have Willa come on here for just a quick second and say hi. She's gonna go take a nap, so I'm gonna go and put her down. But can you say adios? We're trying to teach her Spanish, and so she knows, yeah, adios. Or buenos noches, huh? Mwah. Say mwah. Definitely having a baby has been the greatest thing that's ever happened to Tanner and I. And my unmedicated experience was life-changing. Like, it was so special, so sacred, so real, so painful, but just everything I wanted. And I think it was that way because of all the research that I did. And so, like I mentioned before, I hope to share that with you guys and help you know where you can turn for resources and for you to feel strong enough as a woman to be able to give natural birth. We live in a day and age where we don't, we have the option to have a medicated birth. We have the option to have epidurals, to have planned C-sections, all of these things. And I think, let me preface again and say that there's no right way to have a birth, right? I am a strong advocate that what's most important is healthy mom, healthy baby. That is the most important thing, obviously. And there's not a right or a wrong way. I just loved my experience, and I want to share, and I think people can, gain something from this video. And so I think it's just important to put that out there, especially with this, with the opportunity for women to have that choice between unmedicated and medicated. I think that's great if they're like, heck no, I don't want to go through that pain. I know myself, and I know that I don't do well with pain. Then, kudos to you to trusting yourself, knowing your body well enough to make that decision. I guess one thing that does kind of make me a little sad is when women just don't believe that they're strong enough to do it, and they feel very nervous and not confident. And I think that's where this video comes into play. Is I just want you to know that if that's something that you want to do, you are strong enough. Like, you really, really are. Our bodies are meant for this. They're made for this. And I think we just have to believe it. So, okay, going in further than that. So when I was at 34 weeks pregnant, that's like third trimester, 6 weeks till 40 weeks till full term, I decided to switch doctors, and it was actually the best thing I've ever done. So I was going to just a general doctor, a normal OB/GYN doctor, at a local hospital near us, and I had talked to him early on about my plan to do unmedicated. He was supportive, but not very encouraging. So every time I just left from the meetings just feeling like frustrated. I didn't feel listened to. I remember him giving instances, when I would talk to him about suggestions for me to like prep for an unmedicated birth. He just didn't offer me very much, and he would just make comments that made me feel like when the moment came, when I was in a hard spot, say in transition or in a very painful peak into the laboring, I didn't feel confident that he was gonna push me and support me for an unmedicated birth. I felt like I just didn't trust in that he wasn't going to make unnecessary interventions and kind of, encourage the medication or other interventions. So I switched to a midwife after that. I found a midwife who is also a nurse practitioner, and I loved her. I'll put her link below. If you go to her, tell her that you read about her through my blog, which I'll also include in here. I have a website, and I've written all about my experience. That's where you'll also have access to all of the stuff that I talk about. I'll list it here and underneath in the description info, but make sure if you're in Utah and around and you want an awesome midwife, I strongly suggest her. So first and most important, just make sure you have a healthcare provider who believes in you, who supports your goals, who encourages them. There was multiple times when I was laboring when she would come in the hospital, and I remember one specifically, she told me, Marissa, you are meant for this, you can do it. And I was like, dying in pain, and she's like, trust your body, you can do this, you've got it, you're almost there. And that's what I knew. I mean, I knew before that I made the right decision, but especially then when I needed it the most, like, she was there. So on December 17th of 2018, I went into, well, actually on December 16th, I went in just for a normal checkup. While I was there, I was pretty small, and when my midwife was measuring me and feeling my belly, she thought maybe I didn't have enough amniotic fluid. So I went in on the 17th, the next day, and they did an ultrasound to make sure all the fluid and the levels were correct, and they were. But while they were doing that test, they also did a different test that brought up a little concern about baby's heart rate. And so they put me on a stress test, they did a stress test for me where I just had to lay down, and they monitored the baby's heart rate, and they also monitored my contractions. And during that moment, at this point, I was 37 weeks and 1 day. And they consider preterm anything above 37 weeks. So it's past that point, I was barely considered full term, which was such a blessing. But I was contracting about every 5 minutes, and I had no clue at all until we did that test. So my body was in no pain. I didn't even know what contractions felt like. Even when they were doing the stress test, I really, really tried to hone in and listen to my body and be like, could I feel that, or can I just see it, And I started to recognize what a contraction felt like. It was very, minimal and not strong at all, but I could start to notice. And from there, my midwife was, she checked me, and I want to say I was dilated to, I think, a 3.5. She's like, wow, Marissa, you might have this baby before Christmas. It was a week before Christmas. My due date wasn't until like January. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Anyways, so I tracked my contractions for the rest of the day, and I found out that I was staying very consistent. And not only that, but the space between contractions was shortening. So instead of 5 minutes, sometimes it was 3 minutes or 2 minutes, which was kind of crazy. And so basically from that day, I just kept on keeping track. I walked at the gym. We had Indian food. I called my midwife, and I just, let her know my contractions were kind of getting shorter in time. And she said, well, honestly, if you want to do things that can, produce oxytocin and those good hormones, because that's really important to help, transition into labor. And so we did that. You can read more about that on my website. And that night, that night we were making cupcakes because I thought it'd be so cute to have a little birthday party for Willa there. And interestingly enough, Tanner and I had kind of gotten in a little bit of an argument, a little argument. And I remember noticing that my contractions slowed down, which was so crazy because I knew that there was such a mind-body connection, but I never thought about it in terms of pregnancy, right? And labor. I guess I had read about it, but I'd never experienced that myself. And it was so succinct. I don't know. From there, I just know our bodies are so capable of things, and a lot of it comes from the mind. And so anyways, after that, we kind of let things cool down a little bit. It wasn't a huge argument, but we got to the point where we started, we started kissing, we started making out, and I noticed my contractions started to get faster. Isn't that so crazy? So anyways, at that point, they weren't close enough. At this point, the pain was so minimal too. I could feel them getting a little stronger, but it was nothing crazy. The day before, or 2 days before, I can't remember, my mucus had, what is that called? Anyways, mucus thing had came out. So I knew that wasn't in. My water hadn't broke though at this point. So we ended up just going to bed, and I wake up at 11 just feeling contractions happening a little stronger. Still no pain. It's pretty minimal. But I'm like, Tanner, I think we should go. So we drive to the hospital. I arrived at the hospital. My midwife was checking me to see how far I dilated. At that point, I was at, I want to say a 3.5. I think earlier I had messed up and said the wrong thing. When she had checked me after that stress test, I was dilated to a 2. And I want to say, I'm trying to find it, 90% effaced. So I was almost all the way effaced. but you know, sometimes that means nothing. Anyways, I went in there when she was measuring me, my water broke, and she told me, she's like, Marissa, even if I wouldn't have done the, you know, seeing how far you were dilated, she's like, your water would have broke very soon. And so she's like, your body was just naturally ready to go into labor. I was really shocked and surprised. I guess I never expected an earlier labor. I just assumed to make it closer to 40. I don't know how I'm gonna do it in future pregnancies if I don't have the baby at least a week early, because I loved having Willa early. Of course, knowing that she was healthy and safe and everything was fine. So after that, I was strep B positive, so they had to put me on the medication for that. And while they did that, I, had the IV in, I was just on the bed, and I started feeling the craziest contractions. So it was like a night and day difference once my water broke. And can I just say, when your water breaks, it is such a cool feeling. It's like this warm water that's just like gushing out of you. It sounds weird, but it was really, really cool, and it felt really relieving. But not like 10 minutes after, it was like, holy crap. Like, I thought I was gonna have an easy pain, I guess I didn't think an easy labor, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm already getting like 3.5 centimeters dilated and my pain has been 0. Well, that changed real quick. So that medication that they put in, I start to get really uncomfortable. I start to like just find myself wanting to like move around. One of the reasons I picked this midwife and the hospital I labored in was because I was able to get into the water after my water had broke. So IHC is a really common hospital here in Utah, and they don't allow you to do any aqua therapy at all once your water has, once that's happened. And so I was very grateful that I went to this hospital, because that's what I wanted to do. I found a lot of comfort in that, especially during my pregnancy, that I just wanted to get in a hot bath and try and see if that would help with the pain. But before that happened, I swear the antibiotic, that medication for the strep B, was just coming in so slow. So I asked the nurse if she could up the dose, and she did, but I think it made me nauseous, because probably like 30 minutes into it, I threw up. And I had even asked her if I could like move it around, and she's like, yeah, fine. Like, I loved the nurses. I loved my midwife at the hospital. They were super flexible. So I just had to keep that, that little pole with me, and I took it into the bathroom while I was in the tub, and I had my arm reaching out. I couldn't get wet, and I had that in, and then I just remember feeling so nauseous, and I threw up. And that like whole hour, maybe hour and a half, was just so hard. That was the hardest time in all of the labor. And I just remember like being in the tub and just like almost breaking down in tears and telling Tanner, can I just say, Tanner was with me the whole entire time. Like, I'll talk about this more, but he was my saving grace. It like strengthened our relationship and our marriage just even more to have this intimate experience together. I leaned on him so much, and he was there. So anyways, I remember telling him like, Tanner, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't know if I can. And I just remember him telling me like, Marissa, you can, you were made for this. Don't worry. We had practiced like positive reaffirmations, and we had done a little bit of role play before, because I had read that, in this situation, you don't know how it's going to be, but if you've kind of already talked about this, you and your husband or your partner are going to know what to do, and how to react. And so it was really helpful to do that. Anyways, that was my low. And soon after, I was like, can we please get the midwife in here? I need to be checked again. Like, if this is going to be like this for hours and hours on end, I don't know if I can. So she checked me, and at that point I was at a 4.5. So I knew that I dilated 1 centimeter in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2. I can't remember everything. And since there was progress, and hopefully I would have stuck with it even if there wasn't. But at that point, I just decided, you know what? I'm doing this. Tanner was there, not convincing, but just like encouraging. And that was like when my mindset switched, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to give up. I can do this. And I started just telling myself these positive affirmations. And I had even taken in, I printed off like quotes that I wanted, like hundreds of women are birthing with you at this exact moment. Like the pain is all going to be worth it in the end. Anyways, I put these things around for me to look at, and that shift in the mindset made all of the difference. The contractions started coming on even stronger. The great thing about laboring is that you have moments where there's no pain and it's pain-free, and then you have really high mountains of pain where, you know, it's excruciating, but it goes in waves. And so I had read a lot to just like embrace those no pain moments, those pain-free moments. And that's what I did. Is when they came, I soaked it in, and I didn't even think about the pain that was coming. And then when that pain was here, I just tried to keep I tried to keep my jaw loose. I tried to just tell myself, you're strong, you can do it. Like, and the pain, sorry, my just like the pain would make me almost just like moan and groan. Like I would just, so I sat on a medicine ball and I bounced, and I just like moved my hips on it, kind of rocked it back and forth. Tanner held my hand, and every time those contractions would come, I would get a pillow and I would just lean over the hospital bed, and I would just like kind of moan and just tell myself like, you can do it, breathe, relax. And I just really tried to keep calm. Anyways, we'll get into more of that later. But after like another hour, probably an hour and a half, the midwife came in and she checked me, and at that point I want to say it was dilated to an 8, and so I could be a little off on details. I don't think so though. Anyways, let's see. Yeah, so okay, so then once I was at the 8, I was like, oh my gosh, like my body's doing this. I can do it. I can do it. And the crazy thing is, I remember is every contraction too, like I just lost so much amniotic fluid and so much blood, and I could just like feel like widening up. Like I could feel it, and I would tell myself to like be open, like be wide, like stretch, like baby's coming, you know. And I think the more I told my body that, the more it literally widened. Like I could feel it widening up as I would say it. It was so incredible. Anyways, at that point, you know, I kept on laboring, and then she came in not soon after, and she was like, you're sounding like you're ready to push. And that transition was crazy for me because it would be such an intense pain, but at the end it would feel like I needed to push. Like I was almost, not that I was trying to not push, but I was like, oh my gosh, like at the end I just wanted to like, oh, you know, just push. And that's when she hurried and came in. We got me situated on the bed. I ended up sitting kind of traditional with my legs up, pushing onto a bar. At first I thought maybe I wanted to squat. I wasn't a fan, so I got in that position and I pushed for about 20 minutes. And Willow was here safe and sound, and yeah, it was a miracle. It seriously is such a miracle. I did tear, so I had pretty intense tearing internally, so nothing on the outside. I'd actually tried to give myself massages so that it would help with the stretching, which I think did help, but I did stretch internally, and because of that I almost had hemorrhage. So I was about 50 milliliters from hemorrhaging, and honestly that was the worst part about the laboring, or I guess the laboring and the post-birth. Well, that pain before was probably even worse. But this like sewing up and just the time it took about an hour for me to get all the way fixed up. It kind of interfered with my experience with Willow a bit, which was so unfortunate because Willow was getting cold and I just wanted that hour of just skin to skin and nursing. And unfortunately I was like really pale. I felt there. I felt that love. I could feel it, and I could feel that release of pain when she was out. It was like the world stopped and there was no pain. And that was the best thing because, you know, if you're on medication, you don't feel that as much. It was like pain, 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 nothing, like my baby's here. And you know, even though I could feel this, the equipment that they were using to stitch me up, I did take pain medication after because why would I not? I just wanted you know, to feel the process of laboring, but I didn't want to feel the process of the recovery and, you know, the stitching up. Anyways, yeah, it kind of interfered, but it was the most spiritual incredible experience. So I think that's important to just share, and I hope you even learned some things, you know, with that alone. So my reason why, I know I've already explained this, but however you want to get your baby here is so important. I just want you, if you feel fear, I just want that fear to be replaced with confidence. No matter how you're going to have birth, I think that's the key, is having confidence and trusting your body and trusting that you're going to have a healthy baby and trusting that you can do it, and you know, you're going to be okay. So my main and biggest reason why I wanted an unmedicated birth was so that I could be fully immersed in the whole process. I wanted to feel what it felt like to have labor, to give labor. I wanted to feel more connected to Willa and to be able to be more connected with my body, and I knew that medication would take that away from me. Even though that pain is hard, it is definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. I have such a gratitude for my body because I felt it, I lived it, you know? So that was my biggest one, is just like having that connection with my body and with Willa. Like I felt like we were a team, and she knew she was getting ready to come out and I knew I was, and we were doing this. Yeah, so then after that, once getting pregnant, I didn't really know much about the unmedicated process. I knew I wanted that feeling, you know, of having it unmedicated, but I didn't really know all the other research and the other reasons until I dug more into it. So a few statistics given unmedicated and medicated birth. So I learned things like the unnecessary medical interventions that happen, especially in hospitals, especially if you don't have a very supportive OBGYN of unmedicated births. I learned about the way that Pitocin affects you and your baby and your body. I learned about the timeline and even like the business of hospitals. Unfortunately, you know, hospitals, like, they have to make money, and it is a huge business. And I think a lot of the reasons why women end up getting C-sections or getting on Pitocin or having medication is because they do feel a little bit of pressure. You know, there's kind of this push for urgency in the hospital. The actual death rate of C-sections goes up by 60% compared to vaginal birth. So that's a pretty crazy statistic. I'm not trying to scare at all. It's just like the more I research, the more I realize like vaginal birth, when there's not any other unnecessary interventions, of course I get there are for sure times we need to have interventions. Health of baby, health of mama, those are the most important things. They're needed, they happen all the time. But if they're not, you know, it's actually better for mama and for baby. Basically, I just kept on learning too many alarming statistics that fueled the desire even more. Again, click on my website to learn more in depth of those. It's just like, there's a lot less risk to do it unmedicated. So yeah, I had a lot of people tell me I was nuts. I had a lot of people tell me, oh yeah, you're gonna do it, but wait till you get there. And a part of me wanted to prove them wrong. I'm not gonna say that had an influence in my reason why. It's I wanted to show them that I was strong enough. I wanted to show them that I was gonna stick with what I said. And yeah, I maybe am a little stubborn, so it kind of fueled it and helped, I guess. So pain management. I think this is like the most important part because you have to know you're gonna face some pain. Not everyone does, but be prepared because there's a really good chance you're going to, and it's probably gonna be the most pain you've ever felt in your life. So is birth painful? Heck to the yes. At least mine was. Mine was very, very painful. But I think there's a lot of important keys and a lot of important things you can learn, such as, you know, let's try and promote that oxytocin. Let's try and import those happy emotions and feelings that's going to help with birth. Let's create positive affirmations when those hard, painful moments come. Let's be prepared. Let's have something positive to look at and remind me why I'm doing it. You need to remember that why. Learn about different positions and how you can apply different things onto your body to maybe help with the pain management. I stayed in that same position on the medicine ball the whole time. I brought tennis balls though for Tanner to push up against me. The thing that I loved most though was just rocking my hips back and forth. There was a little bit of time when I would lean against Tanner and just put my arms around him and I would just sway and move. I did that once for one contraction and then I was like, nope, that was more painful. So you kind of got to like figure it out, you know, try different positions, dim the lights in the hospital room. That's what I did. It set the mood for just like a peaceful, quiet experience. The nurses that came in, they knew not to be loud. I wasn't wanting like a loud, noisy environment. I wanted a peaceful, relaxing environment. And so that's what we did. I made a playlist of music before and I played it the whole way through, and it had church music on it. It had peaceful piano music, peaceful guitar. Like I purposefully picked the songs that I did to put me in that mood to have a baby and to have a peaceful spiritual experience. I labored in the water, just like I told you. I think aqua therapy has its place and is awesome. Honestly though, I didn't stay in the tub for probably more than like 20 minutes total. I got in and got out at different times. And I would just put like the hottest water on and then do like cold, and I don't know, I tried different things. It wasn't like this is a nice bath. It was just another thing to kind of take my mind off the pain. I really tried to be in the moments. Like I said, when there was those moments of rest in between contractions, I soaked them up. So I would recommend that. Don't think about anything rather than the present, the now, the no pain. I would focus on my breathing, and so even they say like laughing really helps promote oxytocin. So I remember there were times when I was like, my mom and sister actually were there watching me labor, and I just remember laughing and being like, oh my gosh, I'm such a sight. Like I have blood all over this ball. We have to keep changing my pads. You know, on the ball we'd put like pads. Like this is crazy, and I tried to do that to try and make me to laugh. I didn't do it more than a couple times, but it was a nice relief. I would even read things of like rolling your mouth like a horse and, you know, doing things like that, or like sometimes I didn't do this, but I read or heard, I can't remember, things about like reenacting animal sounds or just like certain things to help you relax and find your mojo, like find your strength. Whether you want to be a tiger or a lion to do that, more power to you. I spoke a lot of positive words, so Tanner and I would just tell each other, I love you so much, I love you, and that alone just like brought that positivity and that, you know, reminder. So, I mean, overall, I feel like it's just such an important practice when you're in labor to like really understand your body. I mean, all of this is just, there's so much mindfulness, there's so much intuition, intuitiveness, meditation. Even in like those hardest moments, you come to know your body. I mean, hello Buddhism. I feel like it was just like such a good experience, and I loved it. There's so much to learn and gain. Even, I think this is probably the thing I said the most when those contractions would come and I'd put my head into the pillow. I would just say, open, open, open. And that's when I would feel that opening happening. My cervix, it was insane. I know I've said that, but it was insane. That's basically it, you guys. I hope those were good tips. I'll post, you know, those tips underneath. I'll post all the recommendations that I have. The biggest ones that I loved, there's a couple books that I read. I loved the Ina May Gaskin's book, The Guide to Childbirth. That one was awesome. I didn't read as many of like the personal stories. She kind of like splits it up into two. But the information that she had, some of it can be a little far stretched, like very, very holistic. I kind of found a middle ground, especially because I wanted to give it in a hospital in case I needed interventions. And I just think it was nice to be there as well. But just make sure you like do your research and you plan for it and you fight for the birth that you want, because especially if you're going in the hospital, you are a patient and you are paying to be there and you deserve the treatment that you want. So just be straightforward with your healthcare provider, you know, beforehand with everything. I also loved the book Natural Hospital Birth by Cynthia Gabriel. That one really helped me understand the reality of having birth in the hospital. So that one was especially helpful if you want to do it in a hospital. Ina May's is like home birth. So you can kind of get both sides and decide what's best for you. Let's see. Some of the documentaries, Business of Being Born. This is probably the most popular one. I think I watched it on YouTube for free. You can just go on there. Might have paid a little bit, but it is well worth the money. Super good to read. Just like informs you and empowers you to, use your voice and stand up for the birth that you want. Also, I watched The Birth Story by Ina May Gaskin as well, and that one's good because you see other women give birth. I think even in the Business of Being Born, like you see vaginas, you see babies coming out. And I think it's really good to see that natural, unmedicated birth happen because you understand the reality of it and you can like process it and think about it. I remember at first it's like, oh my gosh, like it kind of took me off guard a little bit just because it's so raw and you don't see that on TV that much, but it was so nice to see like women so empowered, so strong, doing what you're gonna do. And it just was like encouraging. There's other suggestions that I just didn't get to. I didn't have time. Again, I didn't expect Willa to come when she did. 1 week before Christmas, our little Christmas baby. But birth is the best. And I hope that no matter how you do it, you just feel so empowered and you get that birth that you want and you feel strong because you can do it. I know it. So anyways, I hope this answered any questions. If you have any others, please write them below, comment below. I'll respond back to them. So now that I've talked about it, Tanner, when you watch this, are you ready for baby number 2? Just teasing, we're not ready, guys. But I loved being pregnant. I loved giving birth so much. And of course, I love Willa now that, I want to have that experience so many more times. And I hope that you guys have the best experience possible, and that you're left feeling that you just want to experience those things again. So anyways, thanks for listening. See you guys.